NBC Sports is live, Chicagoland Speedway, Joliet, Illinois, for the Nextel Cup Series, running under the NASCAR banner. Teams coming around to get the green flag this time by, beginning to double up. These teams have next week off. For some of them, that's not going to matter. For example, the 24 team of Jeff Gordon came in here. They won their 4th consecutive pole on Friday. They were chasing their 3rd consecutive win after victories at Sonoma and last week at Daytona. But it's been a dismal day for the 24 bunch. They're not going to win. They're not going to make up any ground in the points. And they're going to hopefully pick up ground when this series resumes in 2 weeks at Loudon. They have waved off the green flag here at Chicagoland Speedway, so they will take at least one more lap under caution before we go back to green. And that gives us an opportunity to take you inside the field. Throughout the race, several times we take you inside through the field to let you know how the top 20, top 25 are running. But let's take you inside the field. For example, there's Ricky Rudd. His best finish this year, 11th at Richmond, still looking for his first top 10. Under that throwback paint scheme is the blue of a Mark Martin car. They were hopeful that coming in here that they would find some aerodynamic things that would help Ricky run better, but it hasn't worked out for him today. Be another disappointing finish. Ricky wanted to make it clear at age 47, he has not surrendered, and if you heard his voice and looked into his eyes, you can still hear and feel his passion for racing. Dave?
Bill, Ken Schrader is struggling today, running 4 laps down. But you know that he is more feared than Barry Bonds in a charity softball game on Thursday evening here in town. He had the bases loaded before him, and they would not pitch to him. Threw him 4 straight balls, walked in a run, and Kenny went to first. Matt?
It was a good day and a bad day for Kyle Petty. The phone call no father wants to hear. Thursday morning, he was told son Austin was injured in a motorcycle accident. Not of his doing, but he will pay the price. Both ankles broken, pins in both ankles. The good news, he will be okay. The news got even better. They raised $50,000 Thursday night in a softball game for the Victory Junction Gang Camp, a camp for diseased children in the memory of Adam Petty, who we lost back in 2000. His birthday, yesterday, he would have been 24. Marty?
Matt, all these teams on pit road work very hard, but Brendan's gone team, many of them moved from Las Vegas to Charlotte, North Carolina. They've got no more than 1 day off a week. Shane Wilson told the team this week, you'll have 4 days off after we test Indy. The man who pushed for it, Brendan Gaughan, said give the guys a break. We go back to green in Chicago.
And we do so with 53 laps to go in this race.
And the 40 car, once again, vapor lock. You know, it cost him the Brickyard 400 a few years ago. Same thing again. The fuel gets so hot that it boils, gets an airlock in there.
We've seen that a lot today, BP. A lot of different guys have had that problem.
So Sterling Marlin, who was the race leader, is shuffled back. Now it is Jeremy Mayfield who leads, with Tony Stewart second and Jimmy Johnson third. Oh, and by the way, that's Dale Earnhardt Jr. in front of the leaders. Tail end of the lead lap if he can catch a caution. He might be able to make something out of this day yet.
Let's watch this restart here. Watch Sterling. Go. Did you see that puff of smoke? Was it a vapor lock or a missed shift?
Could have been a missed shift.
That may have been a missed shift. Yeah.
Hey, Benny?
Yeah.
You're right.
Missed shift?
Yes, sir.
Ah.
Oops.
Oops. Here
So
I was thinking it was mechanical, but it's like Sterling.
That'll drop him to 4th place and put a bit of gap between he and these front 3. Remember, Jeremy Mayfield just with 2 tires on his pit stop. Tony Stewart, Jimmy Johnson with 4 fresh good years.
I want 4. I don't think 2 is going to be able to hold them off.
Jeremy Mayfield winless so far this season. He does have a couple of second-place finishes. Owensboro, Kentucky native has taken 2 tires on a few different times today, Marty, for track position.
Yeah, and Kenny Francis just came on the radio and said, remember how good the car was earlier when we took 2 tires. And also, I want to reiterate to you, we are not conserving fuel. You go for everything you need out there on the track.
Okay, so they got it full. So Mayfield leading Tony Stewart by just a couple of car lengths. Under the green with 50 to go. Talked earlier about the green flag finish, the green-white checker that is potentially coming to NASCAR Nextel Cup Racing.
We knew the answer.
I knew the answer to that.
Hey, but looky here. We got 24% over here. That's a bigger number than I thought.
It is, too. I thought that number 66% would be about 86%.
99, yeah.
Ooh, wow, that was close up there in turn 2. Ryan Vickers.
And with the season remaining. Do you want to see the rule change for a green-white checker finish?
Do I want to see it as a booth boy or as a driver?
Both.
Don't want to see it as a driver.
As a booth boy.
Love it. Can't wait. That's right. It's totally different because, you know, as a driver, you're getting set up for those last 3 laps at green-white checker for disaster. And I don't want to see that. But, man, as a fan, the fans are going to love it. So there's 2 different opinions.
I know you're all for it, BP.
I was not for it, but again, I'm on the fan side. They go through enough to be here and pay their money to watch this race, watch it home on TV for 3 or 4 hours. They deserve to see a green flag finish.
Details forthcoming soon from NASCAR, according to President Mike Helton, who talked with us about it on Thursday. Now, we heard... We'll get back to the cause of Wally's ooh-ooh there in a minute. First, Mark Martin. We've been talking about him having a good day today. He just took 6th place, away from Joe Nemechek. Listen here.
Ooh, this motor's big.
Now, that you don't hear often from any driver, let alone Mark. But I'll tell you what, when you've got a good handling car, you think you got 200 horsepower more than anybody else.
Here we go for the lead. Putting Dale Jr. a lap down. Tony Stewart right up on the back bumper of Jeremy Mayfield. They've shaken Jimmy Johnson for a second.
This is just a matter of time, I think, Alan. I really think that the 20 car is just, all he's got to do is be patient here. The 19 car with just 2 tires is not going to have the grip that Tony Stewart's going to have in another 10 or 15 laps. What do you think, Matt?
Well, he just needs a little bit of time to showcase what that 20 car will do. It takes a little while for the car to come in. It starts out a little free on the get-go. They made a slight air pressure adjustment to speed up that process for this final run. Dave.
Matt, on the radio yesterday during practice, Mark Martin was heard to utter that same sound, that woo, and that was when he passed a car that he hadn't been able to pass here before. It was a 12 car Brian Newman and the last year's winner, and that's when he knew he had a really good piece for this weekend.
All right, so Mark running in 6th place with big motor. And here's the cause for Wally's ooh-ooh a minute ago. Watch Brian Vickers, the yellow stripes with the tape flapping, top of the screen.
Actually, Rusty Wallace got loose and darn near ran into the 25 car Brian Vickers.
It's almost like Brian Vickers was sent out the back of his head because somehow he realized that he needed to give Rusty some room. If he had not given him room, there would have been a crash.
Rusty running in 11th. Brian Vickers falling back to 14th place. 43 laps to go. Jeremy Mayfield trying to hold off the driver who's dominated the race so far, Tony Stewart. You're watching NASCAR on NBC. Time for a Ford Built Tough moment. We've been talking engines where Fords are concerned a lot this season. Marty has more.
Yeah, Alan, Chicago marks actually the first race where all the Ford teams are running the newly designed power plant. So what makes this engine better anyway? The new D3 engine. In essence, the engine is more efficient. The biggest change is the angle of the cylinder head port, which makes for a straighter path for the fuel to get from the carburetor to the engine. Plus, the exhaust port angles have changed, which allow for a better outflow. What does that mean in English? About 10 to 20 horsepower and 400 extra RPM. And the drivers say they really notice a difference. When they get back on the gas, they can tell the difference because they have much more response from the throttle. Mark Martin said earlier his engine was big. I think they all agree they have much better horsepower right now. Log on to FordVehicles.com/chase to find out how you could win the next F-150, the official truck of NASCAR. Big power for those Ford cars, huh, BP?
I'm telling you, Mark Martin is making the most of it as he goes by Sterling Marlin into the 4th position. He might be a little bit too far behind these guys, these leaders, Jeremy Mayfield, Tony Stewart, to catch him. A caution flag will put him where he needs to be.
Or if Tony Stewart and Jeremy start racing each other, if Mark can get some fresh air and have nobody around to race with, I think he may be able to run him down.
Well, he's got that now. He's got the clean air. He's going to pass the lap car of Dale Earnhardt Jr. here in a second, and then there's no one between himself and Jimmy Johnson. Problem is, he's about 2.5 seconds behind Jimmy Johnson. So he's got a lot of ground to make up to try and catch that 3rd place car. I'll tell you what's surprising me is that Jeremy Mayfield has put a gap on Tony Stewart for the race lead. Tony has eaten into that gap a very little bit here lately, but not an awful lot.
Did you not pay attention attention to what Wally and I said, Alan? Did we talk about track position? Getting out in front is so important.
And I think also, like Matt was saying earlier, the 20 car is loose, and I thought, well, let's see, let's take a while. I watched him a few laps, and when he was back off the 19 car, he was loose. So I think maybe once he gets some time on these tires and the pressure's built up, he'll make a run for the 19 and pass him.
I did listen to what you said, BP, about track position, but I also listened to Wally say, give me 4.
I'm still sticking with that.
Okay. How about Jeremy Mayfield, Marty?
Well, Alan, in Countdown to Green, Jeremy talked a lot about how hard it is to win in the Nextel Cup Series. As you just saw in the graphic a moment ago, it's been 4 years and 3 weeks since Jeremy Mayfield won a Nextel Cup race. The decision to take 2 tires has put them in the lead with 32 to go. And I've got to disagree with you, Wally. I'd rather have that clean air. That car is going to be awfully wide. If you hadn't won in 4 years, can you imagine how wide you can make that race car?
Oh, there's no
Tony Stewart behind you.
Yeah, there's no question, Marty. The problem is, if that 19 car gets in traffic before this race is over, that clean air is gone, that's going to hurt him.
Here's another twist on the Jeremy Mayfield story. He was one of the guys just outside the top 10 in the championship standings coming into today. He was 12th, and he was 147 points from 10th. With Ryan Newman running into troubles earlier today, Kevin Harvick's had an up-and-down day. Jeremy Mayfield's closing in on competing for that top 10 cutoff at Richmond in September. Big day for him.
And Mark Martin as well. You see, Mark is only about 80 points out of 10th spot.
Dale Jarrett closing some ground today. He's running 9th right now. Not with us earlier. Ryan Newman involved in a wreck with Kurt Busch back in the opening laps of this race. Casey Kane in an accident, bumped from behind by Tony Stewart while leading. Another one of those drivers very close to trying to make that chase for the Nextel Cup Championship.
All right, we'll see. We'll see who's fast this time.
Okay. Check our AOL top speeds at the line. See whether Tony Stewart's making any headway on Jeremy Mayfield and if Mark Martin's making any headway on the both of them.
It looks to me like Tony made a little bit on that lap, but we've got a slower car here. But let's take a look.
Tony Stewart was quickest. Jimmy Johnson was quick. Look at this, 175.
Wow.
Told you Mark is fast.
That's about 0.3 of a second quicker than the leader.
And like I said, now Tony gets to that 19 car of Jeremy Mayfield. They start racing. They're going to slow down 0.3 of a second a lap.
If that happens, Mark Martin can catch these guys. He can win this race.
Well, I know you guys don't think a whole lot of my math skills, but Mark was 0.3 of a second faster. He's almost 5 seconds back, and he's only got 28 laps.
Don't give yourself credit. We don't think much of any of your skills.
Oh, okay.
Not just the math.
Nothing like working with your friends.
You ready for a week off?
28 laps to go. Here's our last commercial break under green flag conditions between here to the finish. And, of course, as always, with NASCAR on NBC, if anything happens during the commercial, we break out and come back to the Speedway as soon as possible, live. Jeremy Mayfield trying to get his first win in a long, long time.